everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the Best You a Coaching podcast. It's Gary here again, and I'd just like to take this opportunity, as always, to thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope that you're all doing great and investing in whatever work it is that you've committed to getting you closer to the best version of yourself. It's been a wee while since we chatted. You might have noticed, I hope you noticed, for regular listeners anyway, and it was an extra week. Usually I try and put these pods out every second week, but on the last occasion I ended up, actually it's for a good reason. Let me just explain exactly what that is. I managed to receive my professional certified coach designation from the International Coaching Federation, and that's something that I have been chasing essentially since I started coaching back in 2021, I guess it was now, and it's something that, as I say, it's been a bit of a pinnacle for me, something that I've really been going for. I was Associate Certified Coach, which is kind of like the base level qualification or certification for ICF, and I managed to get through that. So that kind of delayed the blogs and the pods by a week because I was just kind of in that mode of kind of getting it done, going through, applying for, writing, and successfully passing the exam. So I know there's a lot of schools of thought out there about whether certifications or qualifications are worth the paper or the virtual paper that they are written on these days. I have to say, as an academic for over 20 years now, I do genuinely value the merit of formal education and the formal education path as a supplement, of course, to real world experience, and that's why it was so important to me recently. I have to admit, I have been pondering the criteria for being a coach. I guess it's just kind of basically part of daily self-evaluation and self-mastery to make sure that I am the best version of myself on any given occasion. And as I was pursuing this academic qualification, I guess I should say, I was trying to think of the word to say there. With as much respect to the industry as possible, there is a very low entry bar for the coaching industry today, and by the same token, there are very high expectations in terms of the value add or the outputs that clients and teams and organizations would be expecting to get from the coaching, and I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's because coaching as an industry is still somewhat in its infancy, and it's just going to take time to grow and mature and gain credibility along the way, or is it the hallmarks of something else entirely, in terms of new generations coming through and having a different slant or opinion of, academic qualifications and certifications from industry bodies. I'm not massively familiar with a whole bunch of other industries other than the project management industry, of course, where... Yeah, but I don't know any other industries in the world, actually, where you could just literally wake up one day and decide, you know what? I'm a coach. I'm going to be a coach from this point, and I'm going to start practicing. I don't need any training, experience, or background. I am just going to be a coach. And the only one I came up with, folks, and maybe I would like to hear from you, I'd like to hear your opinion, is possibly a musician. But then, even then, you would still need some level of skills or expertise in music, whether you're playing an instrument, whether even if you're singing. I imagine you would still need some sort of training in and around that industry. But any other industry that I can think of, you need some level of qualification to perform in, or certification to prove that you're qualified to perform in that particular industry, that particular task, that particular function, that particular job role. I remember years ago, the band I used to love back home is a band called Wet Wet Wet, and for those that are listening to this internationally and you don't know who Wet 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 are, you might remember the movie Four Weddings and a Funeral, and they did the theme song for that, which was a remake of an old 60s song called Love Is All Around. Anyway, that got them international recognition, but they're from Glasgow in Scotland. And I remember one time they were doing a gig, and I think it was either at the Royal Albert Hall, or there was some gig they were doing, and they're a kind of soul band, I think is what they peddled themselves as back in the day. Two guitarists, bass guitarist, electric guitarist, keyboard player, drummer, and the lead vocal singer. And what they were doing a gig at one point with a philharmonic orchestra of some description, and then they did a bit of a documentary around it. And the bass guitarist, a guy called Graham Clark, had said, he felt intimidated because he looked upon himself as a cowboy, a rogue musician, and playing with all these professionals, people who had been trained in it, people who had been educated in it, people who practiced it every day of their life as their vocation. And it was such an interesting thing to hear as a young man. This guy was one of my idols when I was growing up. To think of himself, we would say now that this is imposter syndrome or some other definition of such as we talk about things today. But that's so he picked up a bass guitar at some point in school or in his bedroom or whatever it was. I don't know who has a bass guitar lying about in their bedroom, by the way. And and then he just started playing, and then he's like, I'm a musician. And then he went off, and they were very, very successful, back in the 90s, and they kind of made a comeback in the 2000s as well. So other than that, coaching, I'm not 100% sure. So what other industries are you aware of that do that? And I would, as I said earlier, I would like to hear from you. And I don't see any of this to be a downer or to poo-poo anything that I've done. I'm absolutely thrilled to get the PCC designation, and I do genuinely believe in it. I think the International Coaching Federation are doing a great job, and they are trying to certify. And the exam process is not easy, by the way, folks. I have to say, they've changed it recently because I guess there was a spate of people maybe passing the exam that shouldn't have passed the exam, and they've made it a lot more tough to apply for the exam. The criteria to be eligible to write the exam is a lot more strict now, and then there's much more strict conditions that you write the exam under, whether it's in a testing centre or virtually. I did it virtually. So yeah, it's just something I think I would maybe I mentioned just to kind of, one, to give myself a little bit of a pat on the back and let you know that I got the PCC, but two, just to remind you or recommend that you look out for that in the future when you're selecting professionals for whatever it is that you need. And one way to verify their bona fide-ness, that's probably terrible English, I'm sure, is of course through formal, recognisable and verifiable certifications. And if you go on to most industry body websites, you would be able to look for people that are certified, people that are genuinely part of the community, and see whether they're actually telling the truth or not. And you would be able to do that for me with the ICF and certainly with PMI as well. So just a little bit of food for thought to get going on this particular episode, since I missed a week for, as I say, good reasons. So in this episode, we're going to work through the recent blog that's centred on time management. And before that, I'll just give you a wee bit of a brief overview of what's happened since we last chatted, in addition to obtaining the PCC designation. Of course, like before, I mention this on every pod, I do continue with my coaching, which is my core passion, and it's primarily one-on-one coaching for right now, and it will literally be the heartbeat of what I do for the remainder of my days on this planet. I can assure you, I just absolutely love it. Continuing with my journaling as well, and essentially that's a habit now. A day does not pass whatsoever now without me doing my journaling, and it really provides a little bit of clarity and awareness both at the beginning and the end of the day for me. And I hope that manifests itself into more purpose, more clarity, more intention and follow through, and just a different persona per se. Not that I didn't get things done before, I just know what I have to do. I just know how to react if things don't go that way, because I've already kind of pre-populated that first thing in the morning when I wake up. I did indeed graduate, and I'll say graduate kind of in air quotes or inverted commas, from the Mastermind Launchpad Accelerator program that I've talked about on a couple of previous pods, where what I was doing this since September, October 2023 time or so. And as I think I have mentioned before, it's been a fantastic help in helping me understand who I am, what I'm doing, and then the nuances of building a business around my talent, my skill set, my passion, my drive, and given me practical, tactical, and emotional supports and the ability to build a business from the ground up. And I have to say, folks, it was absolutely brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't regret it one little bit. And it was interesting to see a lot of other people in the course. Some people dipped in, dipped out. Some people were there every single week. I did every single live session, real time, despite the fact that you could get a chance to look at them later on. But I was dedicated to doing it when it was supposed to be done, getting the benefits of being live on each of the weekly coaching sessions, the immersive weekends and such. And I got my money's worth. I don't mind telling you that. And at the end, what they did at the end, there was a bit of an upsell of another support offering that they have that would kind of take you to the next level. But I'm going to take a wee bit of a pause for right now and just, I've graduated from Launchpad Accelerator. I had my PCC. I'm working through, obviously I did the core dynamics on the IPEC work a month or so back too. I'm going to just take a wee bit of a level set, see what's next for me. I think what's really next for me and what you can probably expect to see is a little bit more investment in the actual promotion of the business as I go forward now. But tremendous foundation that I have now, and so happy to get that. I have been continuing with my curriculum development on my blockers course. I started I actually don't know when it was now, maybe a couple of months back. I started a thing on LinkedIn called Tuesday Testimonials. So basically taking the testimonials that are on my website, garygillen.com, and kind of massaging them into a message that could be put out on LinkedIn that says, bravery or vulnerability or the ability to look deeper, whatever the theme of the testimonial that a previous client or a current client has been kind enough to provide to me for the work that we've done together. I've kind of rebranded that, I guess is probably the best word to use, and popped that out there. So if you haven't seen them and you're on LinkedIn, I encourage you to go and take a look, because even when I look at them and I wrote my part of it, of course the client wrote their part of it, I'm kind of inspired by taking the lesson beyond the words and kind of transposing that to a more inspirational message for other people to read, and been continuing to do some networking with various people in the industry, or various people that I think I can serve at some point in the future. Books on the go. I am reading a book that a fellow actually from the mastermind community, I happened upon a video of his one day, and he was talking about a book that he had published. So I went and took a peek at the book and thought, that's something I think I would like to read. So I am reading a book right now called Finally Find Freedom. And it's by a fellow by the name of Philip Ride, and that's Wride. And it's basically around these metaphorical chains that are holding you back. He mentions a dozen of them in the book and what you can do to try and break free of the chains, and that's why I mentioned the kind of metaphorical part of that. It's a good read. I'm probably about almost 3/4 of the way through of that book, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Quite a quick read, and I'm hoping that I'll have that done and completed by the next time we chat. And I did indeed finish Elton John's autobiography, Me, and that was really good. And I thought I would maybe have some nuggets of information to be able to share, but not really. And now I'm on another autobiography, and it's called Inside Out by the actress Demi Moore. And that's quite honestly, it's a bit of a harrowing read thus far. She had quite the life. I'm at the kind of successful part now, so it's certainly lightened up a little bit, but boy oh boy did she have an upbringing to talk about. Coaching for Performance by Sir John Whitmore is basically a desk ornament for me right now. I just can't seem to I don't know, what would you say, muster the inspiration to actually read it. I've tried to go through it, and it's just kind of mechanical, so I'm not sure exactly what about that, but it's there. I will read it at some point, I'm just not sure when. Okay, on to the actual content for this time in this episode, and I'm just going to provide a wee bit of a brief summary of the blog number 15, which was on time management, which was recently published there. And I did start by saying that time management, now, the reason I did this as a topic is not because anything spectacular or sensational had happened in relation to time. It was just more, it was time to talk about time, if you know what I mean. And it is something, certainly on a personal basis, that I've struggled with in terms of management of time and various facets that go within management, which I'll get to in just a wee bit here. And not so much on the professional side. I don't ever really feel that I had a massive problem. There was times when you were in the office setting and you're back to back to back meetings, and you would have to send a quick text to say I'm going to be 2 minutes late for the next one, as you kind of ran around the hallways trying to find the next meeting room. But overall, professionally, never much of a problem. Personally, it kind of was, and I'm starting to spend a bit more time to try and figure out why. And mostly, one of the reasons anyway that I used to justify my tardiness on the timekeeping was I don't like waiting. So then I would try and do everything to just be in time, to do the kind of just in time arrival thing, and that's sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, and a lot of the times it was because I kind of basically underestimated the paper cuts of time management, or the paper cuts of life, and the nuances of everything that needs to happen to get me to be somewhere. Literally the select your clothes, make sure you've showered, make sure you know the route you're traveling, make sure you've organized the travel, make sure you have everything you need. Like, and all those little paper cuts ended up, manifesting themselves into a point where I should have known better, because I have plenty of experience of it, but for whatever reason I managed to let it get in my own way. So it's one of these things. I think it is a serious topic, and it's one that can have an impact on your reputation. Personally, with my friends and family circle, I do have a bit of a reputation of, it's always him, he's always late, and I'm trying to fix that. And not done well, it can be very destructive, and it's certainly not something that I do in celebration. It's not something I do to annoy other people or disrespect them, or in any way, insinuate that my time is more important than their time or anything like that. It's just, I just don't give it the attention it needs. And we do all know how it feels to be late for something, by the same token. And when you're late for something, especially something you care about or something that's very important to you, that feeling of dread, you've already started beating yourself up, you're under stress, you're probably not paying the requisite amount of attention if you're actually driving to said appointment, you're maybe letting other people down. There's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with it that's just not cool. So my hope, desire and intention for sure is to be better at this on the personal front as I go forward. And I would challenge any of my family who happen to listen to this to drop me a line and let me know how it's been of late, and I hope that the answer will be that it has been better. That's the intention anyway. So I talk about the definition of time management, which is essentially the process of organising and planning how to allocate your time effectively between specific activities, and it involves setting an intention for the activity, understanding your goals, prioritising the tasks, and then using appropriate tools, supports, energy, people, whatever it would be, to help manage your time more effectively. And I do talk about what effective time management is not, and it's not being busy versus being productive. It's not doing more tasks versus doing the tasks that align with your goals and priorities. It's not, working on urgent versus important, and it's not multitasking versus single tasking. It's obviously going to mean different things for different people. It's not an exact science, but there are certain things that you can do that will help you understand your time management persona, if you like, and then help you manage what that looks like in terms of quality, in terms of excellence in the time management space. And the 7 tactics that I listed in the blog there to help you improve your time management skills are: the first one is time blocking, which is basically holding spots in your schedule or in your calendar that are dedicated to a specific thing. Whether you're trying to progress something, you're trying to write a report, you're trying to get yourself ready, you're trying to work out, you're trying to watch a movie, you're trying to spend time with loved ones, you're trying to get some alone time, whatever that looks like, blocking the time in a place that's meaningful, that would actually hold you to account, is the first one. The second one is task prioritization, which would be setting a process that works for you, of course, and then you work on the tasks that suit you the best. And I think, I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the blog that there's different schools of thought out there on task prioritization. Do you tackle the hardest one first to get that out of the way to make everything else a little bit easier? Do you tackle the easier ones first to get a little bit of momentum? It's completely 100% up to you how you do it. Just do it is the main point. The third one is delegation, and again, lots of schools of thought on this as well. And I think the main message I'd like to leave you with on the pod today is just make sure the delegation that you're doing is appropriate. It's something that can be and literally can be done by someone else, and it's not something that's expected or you're the only person that can do it and you're just trying to absolve some sort of responsibility. Just make sure you think about it, and it's the right thing to do. Number 4 is procrastination management, and I think the main message here is literally recognize when you are procrastinating or when you're even building in to procrastination, and it's an intentional event or an intentional way of being from a time management perspective. And then once you've started to recognize it, try and decipher why. There will be information there will be data there, and there will be a pattern. Absolutely there will be. And then once you understand what that pattern is, then you can establish strategies to overcome the procrastination and get it done. So that's number 4. Number 5 is using technology, and whether you're a technical person or not, it's really just all around us today. And just pick some sort of technology that will work for you and then use it. And it doesn't need to be forever. By the way, you could do something just to get yourself some momentum, and it provides you reminders, it holds you to account, it freezes your device with a reminder, something like that, whatever it is that's going to work for you. And then maybe that helps establish a habit, and then eventually you're relying less on the technology and more just on your inner drive. Number 6 is energy management, and it's ultimately know your energy patterns, if I could call them that, and build them into how you're going to manage your time. There's certain times of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year that you're going to be more energetic than others, and that energy will be appropriate for specific tasks that you're trying to progress and complete at a given point in time. You will know that for yourself. So similar to the previous parts, like you see the pattern, see the data, find out what that looks like, and then tackle the tasks that are appropriate for your level of energy at a given point in a given day. And you'll see some successes from there. And the 7th and final one is distraction control. Now, I know that I've talked about distractions on probably almost every previous pod, and it does come up a lot. I do appreciate that. And I just think, once again, just a kind of reaffirmation, figure out what the distractions are, know what they are, be honest about what they are. And when I say be honest about your role and your culpability or accountability in creating, maintaining, sustaining, or tolerating the distractions, and then manage them. Put a plan together to manage them as appropriate. Give yourself a break to enjoy or immerse yourself in the distraction, and then take a break from that distraction to get back to the task at hand. That will certainly serve you well as you go forward. How do we struggle? Why do we struggle with time management? The list I have there is there's not absolute intention written down to hold you to account as to what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, why it's important. A lack of clear goals, poor planning and organisation on your behalf, an inability to say no to things that don't serve you or don't help you move forward on the more important factors. A lack of time awareness, and what I mean by that is a lack of ability to truly realistically estimate the amount of time it's going to take to get a thing done. And kind of back to what I was talking about at the top of this particular part of the pod, is understanding everything, the whole package of things that have to be done, that comes as one amalgam to say it's actually going to take me 3 weeks to do that, and then the ability to be able to explain what that looks like, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 days or a year or whatever that looks like. But a lack of time awareness and the time it takes to do things, and the amalgam of everything that has to happen in and around that. Perfectionism, striving for perfection when perfection is just not required. A fear of failure can start to get things a little bit bandy on the time management side. And then all of this kind of can compound itself into overwhelm and stress. And when we are overwhelmed or stressed, nothing is going the way that we want it to go. And it's certainly not going to be an enjoyable experience at the very least. A lack of self-discipline and, getting to a point where you truly, I mentioned earlier, have an honest conversation with yourself. You need to be able to do that. If you're going to lie to yourself, then you're going to get what you get. If you're lying to the person most important to you, which should be yourself, then you're going to be in a bit of a sticky situation going forward. So my challenge to you is, from all these struggles, what's the ones that you recognise most in yourself today? What does that look like, and what are you going to do about it? And we kind of get to that towards the GAS challenge in a wee bit here. I then go on to talk about positive and negative aspects of time management. There is a table that I put in. The format isn't great on the blog, I have to say, but I'm kind of restricted with the WordPress website that I have for right now. So the format's not wonderful, it's not awful, but I would make it look a bit nicer if I had the opportunity to do so. And we just basically talk about, the aspects of the negative, positive and negative aspects of time management, and tackling areas like relationships, reputation, prospects, faith in your ability to be able to do something, emotions, productivity, work-life harmony, and such. And everything's there on the table. And then there's two columns. One says, here is the positive aspects if you do it well. Here are the negative aspects if you don't do it well. And it's kind of purposely intended to kind of tug on your heartstrings a little bit, if I'm being really honest, to give yourself an opportunity to say, yeah, I do that. And I do have a situation where my relationship with my better half is strained, or I end up telling little lies, white lies, to get myself out of a situation, or I do believe my reputation has been tarnished to a point where I have some makeup to do. And to give yourself that opportunity, not to make yourself feel bad, we're not into beating ourselves up, but give ourselves an honest, open assessment of where we're at, and then do something about it. I then go on to talk about how do we improve, and basically, I don't want to sound like a lazy writer, but everything that I mentioned, almost everything that I mentioned on this list in the blog, was to do the opposite of what I mentioned in the struggle section, the areas that you could struggle in. And there's also another couple of other suggestions in there, talking about focus and prioritizing, focusing on something. Self-care is absolutely critical for you every single day, and using reflection as you move forward to see what's working, what's not working. Celebrate the things that are working and correct the things that aren't. And these are essentially whole life areas. So the approvals would be, if you have a lack of clear goals or a lack of intention, set an intention, set clear goals. If you're poorly planning or organising things, you need to get some help and supports with planning and organising. If you have an inability to say no, find out the best way to say no. Get your situation where you know your why, and you concentrate solely on your why, and then these things become a lot more clear, and then you have an ability to actually have that clarity to move forward, communicate with other people, and then move forward to success as you go forward. So yeah, that's an overview. You can go read the blog if you haven't already, and you'll get a bit more words around that in terms of some of the kind of research that I did to get to that topic. I do have a little bit of a book review for you today. I think I mentioned on the last pod that I had kind of inserted a book called The Prosperous Coach by fellows Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. And the reason I kind of sandwiched it in there was I actually got it from the public library, and it's not something I do very often. Not that I'm a snob in any way about the public library, it's just not a place that I typically visit, especially since my son has grown up now and we don't really have a need for the library. But this particular book was about $50 odd, and I thought, if I can get it from the library via my membership, that's probably at my price point for right now. And the good thing is it was a very quick read. I thought I was going to have to renew it a couple of times, but I got through the book in probably about a week and a half or so. And basically the book is essentially dedicated to making sure, as a coach, you understand what you want from your coaching business in terms of prosperity. And when I say prosperity, I don't mean just financial prosperity, but your life, your actions, your time that you're spending on things, what you're working towards and such. And it goes through a whole bunch of things. It is a good read, folks. I really, really enjoyed it. And when I get through a book in that amount of time personally, that's a good book for me. That's one of these, I can't put this down. I'm really, really enjoying this. It talks about the miracle of coaching. Coaches are in the miracle business. And it's very well, it's kind of blunt almost and to the point, which I do really appreciate that type of writing style. Drop the phony stuff, the different types of coaching they have, depending on how much time you spend on it, how dedicated you are. And I don't mean that if you're not dedicated, you're a worse coach, but they've got three different buckets in terms of how seriously you're taking your coaching profession. One is a part-time coach, one is a personal growth coach, and the other one is a pro coach. That's their nomenclature. And then they talk about the fact of, they spend a lot of time talking about how to craft your charging model, the monies that you're going to be charging clients for your services, and they go on to talk about your clients are paying for their dreams, and their dreams are priceless. Now, that would be wonderful if that was actually the case. I can tell you that's not the case, as I've spoken to a number of clients about the pricing, and then you have to get into an explanatory conversation. I was going to say self-justification there. I don't get involved with self-justification at all when I'm talking with clients about costing and pricing and such. And then it does go on to talk about the business side of things, and they call that the hard part of coaching, which is the business of coaching. And if you can get to a point where you love the business of coaching, then your business, of course, is going to take off, and you get an opportunity to then design your preferred lifestyle, as they say. They detail 18 different disciplines about what to do and what not to do to create a prosperous coaching practice. And for example, just a couple of examples here, they don't subscribe at all to cold calling of anyone. They don't subscribe at all to email lists. They do subscribe to the ability to storytell for as you're seeking new clients and establishing a client base, finding the goal behind the goal for the client. A lot of times a client comes with an issue, and that's not actually the issue, that's the surface of the issue, but the other issue or the other goal or desire or dream is a lot deeper than that. As a coach, don't be needy, don't be greedy, get your own coach. And that really resonated with me. I've been a wee bit delinquent on that of late, so that's something that's certainly on the list of things to do. And discuss the context of possibility and not affordability. And then lastly, the one that really resonated with me was be great at what you do. Be a great coach. If you're not a great coach already, seek feedback as to where your challenges are, where your blind spots are, and work on them. Do self-development work every single day. I subscribe to all of that. And then they talk about a kind of process of connection, invitation, creation, and proposing as you go through your kind of business model to get a client to understand what they're getting, who you are, why you do it the way you do. You create an invite for them to experience what it is, and then you get them an opportunity to make a proposal to say, this is what it looks like to work with me. Would you be interested? So fascinating stuff. They then go on to talk about fearless coaching. Some of the areas in there was talking about boldness, being bold as a coach with your clients, and having a framework that allows you to go deeper with the clients, being okay with silence, being true to yourself, being willing to try new things. And quite honestly, that part, as good as it is to read it, is literally the foundation. It's the basics of what I would consider to be coaching. So nothing materially new for me there, and hopefully if you have experience in coaching, there would be nothing materially new for you at that point too. And then they talk about what the clients are paying for, and they're not just paying for the 1 hour or however long your coaching sessions are. They are paying for your world experience, your professional experience, to date, and everything that you have done to get to that specific point in life. So when someone balks at a number, you can then take them through the particulars of why the number is the number. And then one thing that also resonated with me was that they said that you should look at your calendar regularly as a coach. and remove or at least reduce the items in your calendar, in your work calendar, that don't generate income. Now, there's, for me, that's kind of twofold. One would be a direct generation of income where you're actually prospecting with clients, and the other part would be some foundational self-education work, pursuing a qualification like I talked about a little bit earlier, or things like that that would be inadvertently contributing to generation of income at some point down the line. So that doesn't mean you just take everything off that's not a sales call, but be purposeful about what's actually in your calendar, was the main message I took from that. And they kind of finished off by saying, safety is the enemy of success. So if you stay in the comfort zone, your comfort zone, and you don't move yourself out of that, then you will always be safe. That will be a comfortable place to be, which is why it's called comfort zone. But it's okay to fail. It's okay to push the boundaries a little bit. It's okay to try new things and things don't work. And then celebrating your failures was the key part of that message. And they talk about the key to failure as a coach is taking yourself seriously, and the key to success is taking your work seriously. The key to failure is taking yourself seriously. The key to success is taking your work seriously. So yeah, very good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you get the chance to read it, I would thoroughly recommend you do. And as I mentioned, it is a quick read as well. So okay, I hope this episode of the Best You, a Coaching Podcast, was a valuable use of your time, and that you will indeed join me for more as we move forward together. If you found it valuable, please do share it with others as we continue to build our community of like-minded folks from around the globe, literally around the globe, to help each other continue the work that we're doing going forward to be the absolute best that they can be. And I would like to challenge you with a bit of a question here. Have you shared this podcast with anyone else? If so, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. If not, why not? Seriously, why not? Why is it? Are you keeping me a secret? Do you think you're part of this kind of cool persona thing, like, where nobody else gets him? This is just my guy. Or is it you don't want to let other people know that you're listening to my podcast, or you don't want to let other people know the type and style of work you're doing to invest in yourself? I'd like to know. If you haven't recommended that at least one other person within your network listens to this podcast, I would love to find out why. If you think it's rubbish, maybe just soften the language down a wee bit as you tell me that, because you'll crush me if you say that. You won't. I promise you won't, as long as you make it constructive. But I'd love to know. If you haven't done it yet, I'm doing a specific call to action, and please let me know. If you haven't shared it yet, why not? If you have shared it yet, why did you do that? Who did you do it with? Did they listen? Did they get value? And let's have a bit of dialogue about that. Don't forget to take a peek at my website, garygillen.com, for more content and information, including the blog that I mentioned earlier, of course, previous blogs and previous podcasts. Until next time, my friends, please do take care of yourself, and all the very best to you in your journey. I will talk to you very soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.